The Civil War bandsmen had a pretty good job, really, considering. They played a couple of times a day. They weren't allowed to go out and cut wood or dig trenches per se. They were mainly on duty to play music. However, during the time of battle, they were put to work as stretcher bearers. That was their job. Lay down their instruments, take people from the field, and then also assist the surgeon. And you know what happened in those days if you got shot. It was surgery. That's what they called it anyway. It was really amputation. So they had a real grisly job on the field. We would like to play a tune for you that was written by Stephen Foster. Does anyone know who Stephen Foster is these days? There we go. Good for you. Anyone else? Come on. Two. All right. All right now, you people that are know-it-alls, give me the name of a Stephen Foster tune. Swanee River, right? Old Susanna.
My Old Kentucky Home.
My Old Kentucky Home, is that one? I think it might be, yeah. Yeah. I Dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair.
Yeah.
All you kids who are sitting here rolling your eyes going, what are they talking about? Believe me, back even in my generation, it was a requirement in school that you had to learn American folk music. And you learned these tunes and you sang them, even though they were 100 years old. Don't do that so much anymore, nor do people know how to whistle these days, which is kind of interesting. Young generation that know how to whistle. So anyway, we would like to play a tune for you. I think you'll recognize it. Someone mentioned Swanee River.
Yep.
In this case, this is the Swanee River,
Florida.
also known as Old Folks at Home. But because it was written for a commanding officer, it's called George Hart's Quick Step. These guys weren't dumb. If you're going to write an arrangement, name it after the commanding officer. So here we go.
Good branding back then, right? What? Not always on, but history doesn't matter.
The instruments of that time, like I said, the brass instruments were made in Boston and New York primarily. They were copies of instruments that were made in France and in Germany. It was very hard during the Civil War for Confederate soldiers to get instruments. About the only time they got brass instruments is when they captured a Union band or were able to seize instruments, coming through a town or something. So the Confederate bands were smaller, but they were very, very good. The Union bands were more plentiful, and they were not so good at the beginning of the war, and they slowly got better as they learned their music. They had one musician who was very good, generally called the chief musician, who would write the music. It was written in a small folder, which could be placed in the pocket, and it was written generally in pencil, and sometimes it was written in ink. The musician was expected to keep this music and their instrument, and most importantly, the mouthpiece, because if they lost the mouthpiece, it was time to carry a rifle. So I think that's one of the reasons why this instrument is in such good shape. That was his lifeline to get through the war, as long as he had his mouthpiece and his horn intact. At the time of the Civil War, there were many Irish that fought on behalf of the Union, and there were many Irish jigs that were incorporated into the marches of the Union Army. So we'd like to play one for you now called St. Patrick's Day Quickstep. It starts out with a tune called Gary Owen, which some of you, if you're familiar with history, that was the tune that was and is still used for the Army 7th Cavalry. And then it goes to some familiar Irish jigs. So,
Irish washerwoman.
next tune we'd like to play for you is a tune that actually survived the Civil War well into the 20th century, about mid-20th century. The name of the song is called Kathleen Malvourneen, and it's a song like many of the songs of the Civil War. It's very sentimental. Often those songs were written to talk about homesickness, people missing mom, because guys were mama's boys back in that day. I mean, they held women in very, very high respect and high regard. And oftentimes there were tunes written about a sweetheart. And some of these tunes were very carefully played because legend has it they'd make soldiers want to desert. This particular tune is basically the lyric is about a soldier who's called for his duty, and he seeks his sweetheart for the final kiss goodbye. He looks for her, he finally finds her, and she's asleep. And she's so beautiful, sleeping, that he doesn't kiss her goodbye, he doesn't want to wake her. And so that's the sadness of the tune. We have a nice arrangement of it here. I think you'll get a sense of the beauty and the sentimentality of the music of that period. We talked about some tunes that made it to the 20th century. One of the tunes that made it to the 20th century was a song called Ora Lee, which, if you're an Elvis fan, you'll probably recognize that this tune is a tune that he used for a song called Love Me Tender. And I'm sure it's been used many, many other times with different lyrics throughout the ages. But this is a traditional Civil War arrangement of the tune Ora Lee. Next tune we'd like to do is another quick step. The soldiers in that day had 4 speeds, basically. They had a basic march tempo. They had another tempo which brought them up a little bit faster, the quick step. There was a double quick, and then there was the charge. So the quick step is a little faster than your normal march tempo. And the way the bands were set up in those days is the band marched at the very front of the column of soldiers. And they used very unique instruments that really didn't stand the test of time. After the end of the Civil War, they pretty much vanished. But during the Civil War, they had instruments that were called over-the-shoulder horns. Basically, the bell of the instrument faced backwards, and the mouthpiece came around this direction. The band marched at the front, and all the music went back to the soldiers. You can imagine, after the Civil War, when town bands got their start, that didn't go over very big with the audience, with the music going that way and the audience this way. And so instruments like this were made, which are more directional, to point the music at you. So we'd like to play this tune for you. It's called As Many Tunes from the Civil War Period Are Named Funny. This one has a funny name. It's called Alpha Quick Step, or Be Kind to the Loved Ones at Home, and The Dearest Spot on Earth to Me is Home Sweet Home. We need to now introduce the musicians. Just come to that point in the program. Tom, have you guys met yet? Hi. The guy. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's about time. I don't know where these guys. They're all from just pickup band from Richmond. I don't know where I get them, but anyway, we have one more tune you want to do for you. I don't know if you had time, but there's a guy over in that community center today. He's a 91-year-old trooper, and I mean trooper by the name of by the title of actor and entertainer, a fellow by the name of Larry Storch, and we had the opportunity to meet with him just briefly before this. And I tell you, of course I remember him from the heyday of the 60s, and probably the younger people might see him today on these reruns that are going on forever. But he's an awful nice guy, and anyone who can make it out here to Victoria at that age and spread smiles and laughter and kindness to people is somebody that I admire. So we'd like to play a tune in honor of Larry. And I was hoping he would be here, but maybe we can go play it for him over there. But this is the theme from F Troop.
Right.
No excuses. We call this, it's like a piano score. It goes on for 3 pages, but it's on a roll. It needs to be on a roll. Okay, we're just going to do that intro just once. Not twice. One, two, ready. Thank you, folks, for listening to us today and sticking it out. Now you know more about Civil War band music than 99% of the people in Virginia.